Welcome, everyone, to the 21st Century Man podcast. In these deep dives, we explore the insights found chapter by chapter in the book, The 21st Century Man.
And today we're cracking open chapter 51. It really digs into the topic of pornography.
Yeah, big topic. We're going to get into this using the material from Michael Bashan. He's a researcher with an MPH, and also Dr. Judson Brandeis, a urologist.
They've pulled together a lot of data here.
They really have. Our goal is just to unpack the key takeaways for you. So let's start maybe with just where the word came from, the history.
It's actually quite interesting how the meaning shifted. The term pornography, it's relatively new in the grand scheme of things, appeared first in the Oxford English Dictionary back in 1842.
1842. Really? That feels later than you'd think. What did it mean back then?
Well, according to a late 1800s Merriam-Webster's, the definition was something like licentious painting or literature, especially the painting anciently employed to decorate the walls of rooms devoted to bacchanalian orgies.
Bacchanalian orgies. Okay, that sounds pretty wild. But the source mentions what that actually meant in the Victorian era, right?
Exactly. It wasn't quite what we might picture today. It basically just meant, drunken parties.
Okay, so art related to drunken parties.
Yeah, and contrast that with how we understand it now and how the book defines it. Basically, material like books, photos, videos, writings, whatever, depicting erotic stuff meant to cause sexual arousal.
That's a huge difference. From specific party decorations to, almost any media designed for arousal.
A massive shift. And that modern definition really sets the stage for the sheer scale of it today, right? Mostly because of the internet.
Oh, absolutely. The numbers the chapter lays out are just, they kind of blow your mind.
They really put it in perspective. I mean, we're talking over 2.5 million porn websites out there. It's vast.
And the money involved reflects that. The research says over $3,000 is spent on online porn every single second.
Every second. Wow.
Yeah. So this isn't some, niche thing. It's estimated at something like a $17 billion industry just in the U.S.
And think about this. 1 out of every 3 internet downloads globally relates to pornography.
1 in 3.
It's just woven into the fabric of the internet.
And it's moving into new tech too, right? Like VR porn.
Yep. That market's projected to be a $1 billion business by 2025.
And even going back a bit, like 2008, a stat showed 3 million Americans were buying porn online, spending about $60 a month on average.
It just shows the huge economic engine and how many people are directly spending money on it.
But its influence, as the authors point out, goes way beyond just the websites and the spending. It sort of seeps into the wider culture.
For sure. Things like how companies advertise, the books we read, the movies we see. It even shapes, economic stuff and our laws sometimes.
It's apparently become so common that researchers have trouble finding teenagers for control groups. Teenagers who don't watch porn.
Yeah, that really says something about how widespread it is now, doesn't it?
It really does. So, okay, it's huge, it's everywhere. But does it affect everyone the same way? Men and women, for instance?
Well, according to the data in the book, no. There are some notable differences in how men and women consume it and potentially how it affects them.
Is there a biological angle to that?
The source points to one, yeah. It talks about brain activation. Areas like the thalamus and the hypothalamus, they light up significantly more in men compared to women when viewing this kind of material, which, helps explain why men might often be more stimulated visually. And the hypothalamus is key. It's tied to basic survival stuff like motivation, hormones, sex drive.
Right, those core drives.
Yeah.
What about the type of content people look for? Does that differ too?
Generally, yes. The trend noted is that men tend to prefer images and videos, while women often go more for erotic stories or sites that emphasize romance.
Okay, and the stats on how often people view it?
Those really show the difference. Men are more than 5 times more likely to look at porn than women. The number they give is 543% more likely.
Wow, 5 times. The book also links viewing habits to other factors, demographic things, lifestyle. We should probably just lay these out as correlations the source found, right? No judgment, just the data.
Exactly. So the data suggests higher consumption correlates with being male, especially in the 35 to 49 age group that's flagged as the biggest consumer group.
Okay.
Also, higher subscription rates tend to be found in more urban areas, places with higher average incomes, lots of young adults, and interestingly, a higher percentage of people with college degrees.
And on the flip side.
Well, Happily married men are noted as being less likely to look at porn. Same for people with teenage kids.
Interesting.
And there are correlations mentioned with political-leaning liberals being more likely to view an infidelity, with those who've committed adultery being more than twice as likely. Again, just correlations reported.
And getting accurate data must be tricky, right? Because of the stigma.
Oh, definitely. It's a challenge. Researchers mostly have to rely on surveys, anonymous polls, that kind of thing.
And some of those polls, like the Barna Group ones from 2014, 2016, they paint a pretty vivid picture.
Yeah, they found 67% of men aged 31 to 49 viewed porn at least monthly, and almost 40% of them, 38%, viewed it several times a week.
And older men.
For the 50 to 68 group, it was 49% monthly and 25% weekly. Still significant numbers.
And other stats mentioned. 1 in 10 adults admitting to internet sexual addiction. 40 million U.S. adults regularly visiting porn sites.
Yeah, and 2 out of 3 of those visitors being men. It's widespread.
You mentioned earlier about teenagers. What was that stat about first exposure?
For men, the average age of first exposure is cited as being pretty young, around 12 years old.
12.
And a survey of U.S. college students found 58% of young men view porn weekly or more often.
Even at work.
Apparently. 3 out of 10 people with work computers visit sexual sites at some point.
So it's really permeated a lot of different areas of life, which brings up the sort of indirect costs the book talks about.
Right. It's not just about the individual user. There are potential societal costs like lost productivity, the cost of treatment if it becomes compulsive, and the strain it can put on relationships, families.
Which leads right into a really central point the chapter makes. How maybe excessive viewing stops being just, looking at stuff online and becomes a habit that might actually get in the way of good mental health.
Yeah. And a key message here is pornography is fiction. That's something the book really stresses. These are films, productions. They have actors, directors, editors. It's all constructed.
It's not reality TV, basically.
Not at all. And the reality behind the camera can be totally different. Like, scenes might be edited to make someone look like they have incredible endurance, or you have no idea if actors are using drugs or supplements.
Right. There's a quote included from an actress, Erin Moore.
Yes. She described the scene on set sometimes involving, binging on ecstasy, cocaine, alcohol, prescription drugs, basically highlighting that the conditions can be really stressful, anxiety-producing, and completely unknown to the person watching.
And they mentioned John Holmes as a sort of cautionary tale, too.
Yeah, the, quote, legendary adult film star whose story ended with drug addiction and HIV/AIDS. It's a stark example that the fantasy doesn't always match the reality, even for the performers.
And this gap between the fantasy online and real life, that has real consequences, especially for intimacy.
Definitely. The book argues that excessive viewing can really warp a man's view of women, change expectations about sex, about what a desirable woman looks like based on often extreme or unrealistic portrayals.
And that can affect how a man feels about himself.
It can, yeah. It might impact self-image, leading to lower self-esteem or confidence when faced with actual real-world intimacy, which is, different.
And the source connects viewing frequency directly to satisfaction levels.
It does. It states there's a correlation. The more frequently someone views porn, the lower their satisfaction tends to be with both their sex life and their relationship overall.
Less satisfaction with their own sex lives and more issues with arousal or even ED.
That's the correlation noted. And while sure, maybe low satisfaction leads someone to watch more, the book points to research, including randomized controlled trials from back in the 80s, showing that groups exposed to more porn actually reported less satisfaction with their real-life partners afterwards.
Suggesting it might be causal, not just a correlation.
It leans that way, yeah. There's a quote from Dr. Marianne Layden that hits this hard.
What does she say?
She says, pornography viewers tend to have problems with premature ejaculation and erectile dysfunction. Having spent so much time in unnatural sexual experiences with paper, celluloid, and cyberspace erotica, they seem to find it difficult to have sex with a real human being.
Wow. So the brain gets kind of rewired by the artificial stuff.
Yeah.
Making real connection harder.
That's the idea, which flows right into the impact on actual relationships.
What kind of risks does the book mention there?
For men who consume excessively, it mentions increased risks like starting to believe marriage is sexually limiting or that monogamy isn't really normal. And this correlates with a higher risk of infidelity, more marital problems, separation, even divorce.
And there were those 5 symptoms from Dr. Gary Brooks.
Yes, 5 patterns he associated with excessive consumption that show how perception can get distorted. First was voyeurism.
Just looking, not interacting.
Right, an obsession with looking at women, often sexually, instead of engaging with them as whole people. Second, objectification.
Seeing women just as bodies.
Pretty much. Valued only for physical attributes, often based on media portrayals. Third was validation.
Needing to feel masculine through fantasy women.
Yeah, needing validation through association with hot women, even if it's just the ones on screen. Fourth was trophyism.
Women as collectibles.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
The idea that women signal male success, again, often in fantasy. And fifth, which is maybe the most damaging for connection.
Fear of real intimacy.
Exactly, an inability or maybe unwillingness to connect, honestly, emotionally. It really undermines healthy bonding and can foster a negative view of closeness itself.
Those 5 really paint a picture of how it can distort things.
They do.
And beyond the psychological side, the book talks about the brain itself. Actual physical effects.
Yes, this is where the dopamine discussion comes in. Excessive viewing causes a big release of dopamine, that pleasure word chemical.
Okay.
Now, if that dopamine hit is always linked to, say, quick ejaculation from solo viewing, the theory is it can condition the brain and body for that fast response, which is very different from real-life sex with foreplay, connection, all that.
Making premature ejaculation potentially more likely, and structural brain changes.
Yeah, the book cites studies showing correlations between excessive porn consumption and shrinking gray matter in the prefrontal cortex.
Shrinking gray matter, that sounds not good.
Well, the hypothesis presented by experts is that this intense, maybe unnatural overstimulation of the reward system might actually degrade that gray matter over time. Research is ongoing, of course.
Do we see similar changes anywhere else?
We do. Similar changes in gray matter have been observed in people dealing with substance abuse, other addictions.
And the prefrontal cortex, that's the brain's CEO, basically.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. It handles planning, decision-making, impulse control, social behavior. Really crucial stuff. Changes there could have wide-ranging effects.
So, given all this, people might wonder, is porn addiction like an official thing, a diagnosis?
Good question. The book is clear. Currently, no. It's not officially recognized by the American Psychiatric Association. It's not in the DSM-5, their main diagnostic manual, so no official criteria for porn addiction. But the authors point out that people who view compulsively often show behaviors that look a lot like substance addiction patterns.
Like lack of control, negative consequences.
Exactly. Things really interfering with their lives, their jobs, their relationships, and they feel they can't stop.
And that survey finding was interesting, that most regular users would want help if it was easy to get.
Yeah, nearly 90% of 800 regular users said they'd seek online help if it were offered. That suggests a lot of people recognize it's become a problem for them, regardless of the official label.
So when does it cross the line into being a problem, according to the book?
Basically, when it feels out of control, when you can't stop, even if you want to, and when it's clearly having a negative impact on your life and the people around you.
Okay. And if someone feels they're at that point, the book gives some concrete steps, right?
Yes, very practical advice. First, try to figure out why and when you watch. What are the triggers? Understand the pattern.
Makes sense.
Second, remove the temptation. Get rid of magazines, delete files, bookmarks, cancel subscriptions, make it harder to access.
Third, journaling.
Yep. Keep a journal. Track your progress, maybe note any slip-ups. Remind yourself why you're doing this. Reflect on it. Fourth, find something else to do.
An alternative activity.
Exactly. Sports, travel, reading, a hobby. Redirect that time and energy. And fifth, crucially, get an ally.
Talk to someone.
Yes. Confide in someone you trust, your partner, maybe a doctor, a therapist, a good friend. The book really stresses that talking about it helps break the isolation.
And the outlook is actually pretty positive if someone does want to change.
Relatively speaking, yes. Compared to some chemical addictions, the book suggests compulsive porn use can be easier to overcome with the right approach.
And specific therapies work well.
Very well. Things like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, changing thought patterns and behaviors, and acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, accepting thoughts but acting on values have high success rates reported.
ACT specifically had a high rate mentioned.
Yeah, the book notes that people who really engage with ACT can reduce consumption by over 90% and often maintain those changes long term.
That's really encouraging. So let's pull it all together. What are the main takeaways the authors want us to get from this chapter?
They list a few key ones. First, just accepting that pornography is here to stay, basically, because the internet makes it so accessible.
And it's a massive global business. Billions of dollars.
Right. The data points to men 35 to 49 as the biggest user group.
And a major point, watching too much is linked to risks like lower self-esteem, less satisfaction with your partner, both sexually and just in the relationship generally, lower motivation too.
Yeah. And finally, while porn addiction isn't an official diagnosis, compulsive use can be a really serious behavioral problem. But help is available and effective therapy. Talking to people, journaling, these things work.
Thinking back to that average age of first exposure, 12 for boys, that really highlights a bigger concern the chapter touches on, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
If kids are exposed to that early, it can just seem normal, maybe lead to desensitization. The worry is a whole generation learning about sex mainly from fictional entertainment.
Which is totally unrealistic and, well, probably counterproductive compared to getting good info from trusted places like school or home.
Exactly. Now, the book is fair. It acknowledges the nuance too. It mentions that not everyone who watches porn has negative effects. Some people might feel it's fine for them.
Right, some might see it as just entertainment, stress relief, maybe adds a bit of spice or exploration in moderation.
That perspective is included. But the final word from the source, in terms of optimizing your life as a man, the research they present strongly favors avoiding excessive consumption.
This whole discussion really shows how valuable a resource the 21st century man is. It dives deep into these complex, sometimes uncomfortable topics with solid research.
And practical advice too. It's not just theory.
It's a fantastic guide for navigating issues relevant to men today. We definitely encourage you, the listener, to check out the book for yourself. You can get way more detail on this and tons of other subjects. The website mentioned is www.the21stcenturyman.com.
Absolutely worth looking into for the full context.
Okay, that wraps up our deep dive on Chapter 51, Pornography. Thanks so much for tuning in to the 21st Century Man podcast.
We hope you found it insightful.
Be sure to join us next time as we continue through the book. We'll be exploring Chapter 52, all about good grooming.
Looking forward to that one. See you then.